Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. This is for educational purposes, and we generally focus on theories of everything and aspects of those theories. Today is video number 248 on the reciprocal system of theory. This is a system of theory, which means that once you understand how the system works, you can plug this system into any subject and generate relevant answers to your questions. The reciprocal system of theory was devised by Dewey B. Larson back in the 20th century, all the way from his first inklings into the reciprocal system way back in about 1930, up until his death in 1990. About halfway through, he had the theory worked out to the point where he came up with his two fundamental postulates. And then from there, he took those postulates and through a process of deduction, he generated an entire theoretical universe about how things would work if his postulates were correct. And he wrote some books on physics and chemistry and astronomy, metaphysics, economics, and other subjects. And some of his followers have extended the theory into many, many other subjects. But it is a very obscure theory. There are very, very few. He has very few followers, and none of them have been published widely. Today, we are actually looking at one of his followers, revisers. I don't believe that Dr. Perret ever met Dewey Larson, but he certainly read up on all of his books, or at least almost all of his books, and did some great work in spreading it out into new fields, applying it to other areas, applying it, making parallels between other theories and Larson's theory, up until Dr. Perret's death in 2020. And we are looking at his article that is called, it's part 3 of his anthropology series. We've gone through the first 2 articles in about the 20 videos before this. And we're at part 3 out of 4 of his anthropology series on the hidden origins of Homo sapiens. This article is called Homo sapiens ethicus, life, death, reincarnation, and ascension. And before we start reading from this article, let me just give you a little bit more on the reciprocal system. The basic idea behind the reciprocal system is that the universe is made out of motion. Not matter, not energy, but motion. Motion is, matter and energy, in fact, are just 2 different kinds of motion, along with really every other scientific quantity that you can think of is also a form of motion. And for Larson, motion is the relationship between space and time. So all of these scientific quantities that are also motions are expressible exclusively in terms of space and time. They are basically fractions where space or time is the numerator and time or space is the denominator. But there are a few caveats that make that a little bit more complicated, mainly that space and time are coordinate, meaning that they have 3 or more dimensions, both of them. So you can have space to the 3rd power over time to the 3rd power, or you can have space to the 2nd power over time to the 3rd power, and all the various permutations of that. That's what Larson calls coordinate space and coordinate time, 3 dimensions of space and 3 dimensions of time. Then space and time also have their scalar aspects, which Larson calls clock space and clock time. You can envision a scalar motion. Scalar motion is a motion that has a magnitude, but it has no direction or no specific direction or all directions. You can envision this using a balloon and a magic marker. You put a bunch of dots on the balloon with the magic marker, you blow up the balloon, all the dots are moving away from each other. That is a scalar motion. There's no particular direction that they're moving, but there is a magnitude with how fast they're moving away from each other. The further away they are, the faster they're moving away from each other. This is a model for the progression of time and the progression of space. Time is always getting later and later and later. Space is always getting farther and farther and farther apart. These are outward scalar motions. Now, space also can go inward. You can get closer and closer and closer together if you sucked in the balloon. Now, space and time also have their quantized aspect or their discrete units. There is no continuity of time and space. They come in chunks. They're quantized. There's a minimum unit of space and there's a minimum unit of time. 1 unit of space in 1 unit of time, that's speed, space over time. The car is moving 20 miles per hour. 20 miles of space in 1 hour of time. But if you have 1 unit of space in 1 unit of time, you have the speed of light. 1 over 1 equals 1. So Larson calls the speed of light unit speed. And unit speed turns out to be the boundary between 2 separate universes in Larson's world, what he calls the material sector and the cosmic sector. And the material sector is everything moving slower than the speed of light. The cosmic sector, unknown to science, basically, is the sector that is moving faster than the speed of light. But then within the material sector, you have what Larson calls the time region. Because in the material sector, if you have less than 1 unit of space, you don't have space because you have to have at least 1 unit. That's the discrete unit postulate. And so if you have less than 1 unit of space, you don't have space, you only have time. Everything's got to either be time or space, or both. And so if you don't have space, then you only have time. Larson calls that the time region. That's the region inside a unit of space. That's basically the realm of the microscopic, the realm of the atom and the molecule. 1 unit of space in Larson's system is 4.56 times 10 to the minus 8 meters. So it's very small, but not really very large compared to the size of an atom, though. And then in the cosmic sector, the sector that's moving faster than the speed of light, you have what Larson calls the space region. The space region is the region inside a unit of time. Because if you have less than 1 unit of time, then you no longer have time. And so you only have space. So that kind of shows you that the universe is really divided up into 4 different sectors, and 4 different regions is, I guess, the term that he would use. And he takes those 2 postulates. That's the first postulate. The second postulate is basically the universe conforms to the ordinary community of mathematics. Its magnitudes are absolute, and its geometry is Euclidean. There's been a lot of dispute about that second postulate, and Dr. Perret actually, contends that the universe is not, the geometry of the universe is not Euclidean. It is projective geometry. And Euclidean geometry is really a subset of projective geometry. It's a specific kind of projective geometry, or a specific setting of projective geometry. But the first postulate is far more important in my view. And so we're going to get into Dr. Perret's discussion here. This section is called Yin Yang equals time space. So he's been doing a lot of comparing of the concept of time and space that Larson has, of those two components of motion, as being analogous to yin and yang, time being yin, space being yang. And that is Taoism, Chinese Taoism. And he also used the concept of the Dantian as storage of bioenergy in the body. That is also from Taoism. Okay. Another concept that is used from the Chinese is that of yin-yang, the concept of inseparable opposites that Larson calls motion. Yin is the involutive concept, female, polar, curved, full, or cold, whereas yang is the evolutive concept, masculine, linear, straight, empty, or hot. Within the material sector context of the reciprocal system used in this analysis, time is yin and space is yang. Yin-yang also represents a way to represent the concept of simple harmonic motion, where a yin inside simple harmonic motion is a vibration, and a yang outside simple harmonic motion is an oscillation. Vibration, when applied to a rotation, such as an atomic system, creates the concept of charge. A rotational vibration in the reciprocal system that is the source of electric, magnetic, and gravitational charges. And again, yesterday we went over this concept of the 4 different kinds of motion in Larson's system. You have a translational motion, you have a vibrational motion, you have a rotational motion, and you have a rotational vibration. And those can come in multiple dimensions, but the rotational vibration is what he's talking about here, and that is a charge. Charge is energy, and charge on an electron is expressed as force, the motion the charge causes on atomic systems. Charges are easily acquired, but not required, meaning that a particle, including an electron, does not have to be charged. So in Larson's system, there is such a thing as the uncharged electron, and that is what legacy scientists refer to as electric currents. So electric current in Larson's system is uncharged. And the electric current is basically a rotating unit of space. Okay, particles and atoms can exist in either a charged or uncharged state, a concept not recognized by conventional physics. Because the field effects of an uncharged particle do not vary with respect to time or space, they are not readily detected. The most common example of an uncharged structure is that of the uncharged electron, which is observed as a whole. The positive charge of electric current. Like he's using that in quotation, meaning that the legacy scientists would call it a positive charge, but it is really uncharged. The charged electron is the conventional electron, as acting as static electricity. So the charged electron is static electricity, the uncharged electron is electric current. All the forms of bioenergy, like their inanimate counterparts, have both a polarity, meaning poles, and can exist in a charged or uncharged state. Each type of bioenergy can exist in 4 different states: uncharged yin, charged yin, uncharged yang, and charged yang, resulting in what appears to be 12 different forms of bioenergy. 4 types of jing, 4 types of qi, and 4 types of shen. Jin, qi, and shen, we covered that yesterday. Those are the basic forms of bioenergy corresponding to the 3 dantians, or battery centers within the body. Jing being the low speed energy, qi being the intermediate speed energy, and shen being the high speed. Okay, this section is called death and dying. The final concept that needs clarification right up front is that of death. The term death can be viewed as both a condition and a process. In this paper, the word death will be used to represent the terminal condition and dying to represent the process. Dying is the process initiated after the biological organism cannot retain viability. Death is the condition where the organism gets demoted or returned to inanimate status. The process of dying is initiated either naturally via old age or involuntarily due to disease or injury, or unnaturally due to murder or accident. The bioenergetic condition is different for each process. For natural death, the bioenergy of Jing has been depleted. Qi and Shen are unaffected. For involuntary death, or I guess involuntary dying, stress depletes Jing by converting it to Qi to operate the immune response until Jing is expended. Fighting the disease and regenerating tissue will expend Qi. And then for unnatural dying, remaining Jing is converted to Qi in large quantities, which may cause the etheric double to obtain sufficient cohesion to take on a life of its own. But without a viable spatial body to contain it, the etheric double becomes a ghost. Okay, just looking at the footnotes here, it says ghost will be used as the shadow. The word ghost will be used as the shadow of the cosmic aspect of life units, not spirit, which is a common translation for the animus. So the cosmic aspect of life units is ghosts, the shadow of the cosmic aspect of life units. Okay, this next section is called Origins of the Afterlife Choices. The majority of Western concepts concerning the afterlife can be traced back to a single source, Plato's myth of Er, E-R, which goes like this. With many other souls as his companions, Er had come across an awesome place with 4 openings, 2 into and out of the sky and 2 into and out of the earth. Judges sat between these openings and ordered the souls which path to follow. The good were guided into the path in the sky. The immoral were directed below. But when approached the judges, he was told to remain, listening and observing in order to report his experience to mankind. Meanwhile, from the other opening in the sky, clean souls floated down, recounting beautiful sights and wondrous feelings. Others, returning from the earth, appeared dirty, haggard, and tired, crying in despair when recounting their awful experience, as each was required to pay a tenfold penalty for all the wicked deeds committed when alive. There were some, however, that could not be released from the underground. Murderers, tyrants, and other non political criminals were doomed to remain by the exit of the underground, unable to escape. After 7 days in the meadow, the souls and were required to travel further. After 4 days, they reached a place where they could see a rainbow shaft of light, brighter than any that they had ever seen before. After another day's travel, they reached it. This was the spindle of necessity. Several women, including Lady Necessity, her daughters, and the sirens were present. The souls were then organized into rows and were each given a lottery token apart from Then, of their lottery tokens, they were required to come forward in order and choose their next life. Recalled the first to choose a new life, a man who had not known the terrors of the underground, but had been rewarded in the sky, hastily chose a powerful dictatorship. Upon further inspection, he realized that, among other atrocities, he was destined to eat his own children. Observed that this was often the case of those who had been through the path in the sky, whereas those who had been punished often chose a better life. Many preferred a life different from their previous experience. Animals chose human lives, while humans often chose the apparently easier lives of animals. After this, each soul was assigned a guardian spirit to help them through their life. They passed under the throne of Lady Necessity, then traveled to the plain of oblivion, where the river of forgetfulness flowed. Each soul was required to drink some of the water in varying quantities apart from As they drank, each soul forgot everything. As they lay down at night to sleep, each soul was lifted up into the night in various directions for rebirth, completing their journey. Remembered nothing of the journey back to his body. He opened his eyes to find himself lying on the funeral pyre early in the morning and able to recall his journey through the afterlife. As you can see for yourself, all the classic elements are here. The path in the sky became heaven. The path in the earth became hell. That's the end of the Plato, the part for Plato. This is back to Dr. Perret here. As you can see for yourself, all the classic elements are here. The path in the sky became heaven. The path in the earth became hell. The idea of reincarnation and the veil of forgetting, even those cast out of heaven through that second door to take on lives of atrocities. If we make use of the Anunnaki context that is presented in this series, what we have here is the classic dichotomy of the battle between Enlil, the sky god, and Enki, the earth god, and the promises made to their slave population, humanity. Enlil and his father An lived in the heavens and would come down to the surface world as rulers of the land. Enki, with his undersea Abzu and handling mining operations across the planet, lived beneath the surface and would come up to the surface world, bring the treasures from below to placate the sky dwellers. With the onset of hostilities between them, these domains of control became the classic heaven, Enlil as Yahweh or Jehovah, and underworld, Enki, the adversary. The role of human souls in this Anunnaki scenario will be expounded upon later after some foundational concepts have been reviewed. Okay, so that section that was taken from Plato's Republic, and then it was applied to the Sumerian literature, in particular, discussing the Anunnaki, and in particular the Enki and Enlil, the two brothers who were basically in charge of Operation Planet Earth, where they had come here to obtain gold to save their own atmosphere, but they found that the mining of the gold was too hard, and so they ended up using a test tube to take some of the apes that were already here on this planet and transform them into Homo sapiens to do the work for them. And so this kind of, now Enki was the brother who basically did the work of creating us. Enlil was the brother who was pretty much opposed to it the whole time and really did not like the humans whatsoever. Enki became attached to his creation. And so we have something backwards in this myth, because Enki is being portrayed as the adversary, but he's actually the one who was always looking out for us. Once he got done creating us, he's the one that told Noah about the flood and things like that, whereas Enlil just wanted the human beings to be wiped out in the flood. And he was, he's the one, but he's the one who's portrayed in the Bible as Jehovah or Yahweh. Okay, we will, the next section here is called Options While Dying. And we will start that up next time. In the meantime, have a great day. Thanks for tuning in.